So Kevin Ezell is our first speaker. We're going to start off with a home run right off the bat, right? And he is the president of the North American Mission Board. He has served as president of NAM since 2010. And NAM exists to work with churches, associations, and state conventions, mobilizing Southern Baptists for the next step in missions through evangelism and church planting. As president, Kevin provides strategic vision, direction, and leadership as NAM works with Southern Baptist churches to send the hope of the gospel all around North America. Kevin and his wife, Lynette, have 6 children, and they also have 6 grandchildren. So join with me, giving him a warm Iowa Baptist welcome as he comes to share with us.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you so much, Michael. And what a blessing it is to be in Iowa. And I appreciate so much the opportunity. Michael's very gracious with his words, and always a blessing to be my very good friend, Tim Labinas. I apologize for speaking and running, but we called Delta and they would not allow the plane to wait on me. So I have to do this and then go out the door straight there. So I appreciate your patience with that. First thing I just want to say is thank you. We are incredibly grateful to be your partner at the North American Mission Board. And I want to say thank you for that partnership and that friendship that starts with your leader, Tim Labinas, but also with the pastors in this state. I'm so grateful for that partnership. I also want to say thank you for how you give. You gave, you've given in a record way to the Annie Armstrong Easter offering. This past year was an all-time record for the Annie Armstrong Easter offering at $68.9 million. And I want to say that specifically how it relates to Iowa. That's actually the 6th record year of Annie. The last 6 years, it's been record years. Now, COVID year was a record low, but the others were all record highs, all right? So we're real thankful for 6 straight record years of all-time giving. I would like to share some stats, if you would, about Iowa. Since 2012, Iowa Baptist giving has increased by 400% in the Annie Armstrong Easter offering. So again, I want to say thank you. 400% is no small percentage, obviously. 10-year total, you've given over $887,000. And every dime, every penny of that goes on the field. And so I just want to, again, say thank you. If you go to the next slide, I don't have a clicker. Roughly 21% of Iowa's churches were planted since 2010, 1/5 of your churches. Last year, nearly 18% of the baptisms came from churches planted since 2010. And what we're really excited about church planting, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, by the year 2030, in the SBC, 1/3 of the SBC will have been planted, be new churches since 2010 in 2030, if we continue at the same rate, and we will. Next slide, please. I'd like to share just a little bit about Send Relief, and I'll come back to Send Network. But Send Relief are about meeting needs and changing lives. And there's 5 different parts of Send Relief. When you often think of Send Relief, you think of disaster relief, and you should. We're very grateful for disaster relief and our partnership with Southern Baptist Disaster Relief and how we do crisis responses. We did in the Ukraine. You guys gave incredibly to that effort. But it's about strengthening community, care for refugees, protecting children and families. That's with foster care and adoption and human trafficking. I just want you to be aware that there is some incredible resources at Send Relief that can help you and your church model and multiply. What you see at certain ministry centers, we have ministry centers located all over North America, 20 of those. The reason we have those is so you can go, it's kind of like a model home, if you will. You go and say, hey, this is one way you could do refugee ministry. You go to New York City and you see that ministry center. This is one way you could do community strengthening. And it's to show you how you can take it back and do it where you are. When I pastored in Louisville, Kentucky, I took my guys to Guatemala, and there they worked with the people at the city dump, and they got a heart for the homeless. And so when we went back to Louisville, one of my key guys says, we could do that right here. and he began a homeless ministry that they still have today, all triggered because I'd taken them on a mission trip to see what they could model and multiply somewhere else. And that's the reason we have those ministry centers. We won't continue to have 30 or 40 of those. The whole purpose of that is so people can just see one way. This is one way to do it, and it makes a tremendous difference in those particular areas with those specific needs that they're meeting. All right, if you go to the next one. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about Send Network. I brought this up here I know the last thing you need is probably another tumbler, right? But this one is one like no other. It says Send Network Iowa on it. And we could not be more excited about having a partnership. We've had a church planting partnership for years, and we do that under the marketing term of Send Network. We wanted to create a family of all of our church planters. We know that churches plant churches, all right? Tim knows that. I know that. Churches plant churches. We know where our next 100 planters are. They're in your churches, and we have to develop them and make sure that that pipeline is filled. But Send Network Iowa, I want to make sure you understand as we celebrate really the launching of calling it Send Network Iowa, it's not NAM's, all right? It's not just the Iowa conventions, it's ours. It's together, it's Send Network Iowa. We want to build and continue to build a strong church planting network in Iowa. And so when you hear Send Network Iowa, I want you to think of your state convention and NAM. That symbolizes the partnership in a beautiful way because it's ours. There's a guy named Don who lives in Dresden, Tennessee. He pastors a church, been there for over 30 years. We didn't know each other real well 5 years ago. Now we know each other really well. And we both celebrate at least three things. It's our three grandkids. His son married my daughter. And now, I send him pictures. Look what they did, or look at this. And look, we do back and forth. And we can both living in different places. We celebrate our grandkids, and we're very proud of them. My oldest grandson called me the other day on the phone. He's 7. And I saw my daughter's phone number come up. I answered it, and I said, hey, babe, how you doing? He goes, oh, Poppy, it's going. I said, well, hey, buddy, what are you doing? He goes, Poppy, your daughter is in a bad mood. About that time, I heard my daughter say, Cohen, do you have my phone? He goes, gotta go, Poppy. So the first person I wanted to tell about that was Don McCulley, my son-in-law's father. And my point is this. Send Network Iowa is a beautiful thing because we can both celebrate it and be incredibly proud because it represents a fellowship. It's not a thing, okay? It's a fellowship, a brotherhood that we can all be a part of, not just planters, but churches that are supporting those plants. Just keep running. I want to show you a few things because not only do you, when you give the cooperative program, and you have incredibly, and Tim's going to share some of those numbers with you in a moment, there's no state to my knowledge who has increased their CP as you have. And you can do that. But hold your applause for when he gets up here. It's going to blow your socks. It's incredible. And I'm really tempted to just really steal his thunder, but I'm not going to, all right? But it's absolutely amazing what you have done because you faithfully give. You not only help plant churches in Iowa, but all over North America. I want to show 2 cities to you. The first one's Washington, D.C. These are the plants in 2010 in Washington, D.C., and this are the plants now in 2021 because of your faithful giving. Then you go to a place like L.A. You look in L.A. in 2010, that's what it looked like. Because of your giving, this is what it looks like in 2021. And then you could show you, I said there's been we're at 10,000 now, but when this slide was done, it was 9,400. We always, at NAM, so often people want to pick on us online and say, so we always throw numbers that are less than what they actually are because we never want to overestimate, but these are over 9,400 churches planted since 2010. That's where they all are located. And all of that is because of your faithful giving to the cooperative program. So I just want to again say thank you for the partnership in giving. And if you would, next slide. One thing I want to make certain that you're aware of is the chaplaincy, and you can be very proud that we have over 3,700 chaplains serving literally all over the world. Southern Baptists are the largest sending organization of chaplains in North America. And right now in Japan, I can start listing all the different countries. You have Southern Baptist representatives there ministering to our troops. Over 85% of the troops live off base. And so we also have a church planting strategy for our military where we're trying to plant churches outside of every base so that we can minister to our military, even if one day comes when the leaders in our country do not allow us to have Southern Baptist chaplains. We still have a ministry on those bases. And so we're very thankful for that. We have a partnership with the IMB where they allow us to come into those bases, even outside of North America, and plant churches by those bases. And so that's another thing I'm very grateful for. And I want to encourage you that when it comes to IMB and NAM, we have incredible friendship and partnership and work in sync in an amazing way. Send Relief is a joint effort between the North American Mission Board and the International Mission Board, and so thankful for that. Next slide, if you would. All right, that means I'm done. I'm going to share a verse with you real quick. When you pastor, as you have through a pandemic and difficulties, and we know as our planters, you can only imagine, we planted about 400 or 500 churches during a pandemic when they're not even allowed to meet. And it was amazing, some of those challenging times when the guys had just launched and then be fresh into a new church plant for a month and then not be able to meet for a certain period of time. And I know you're perhaps tired of talking about COVID. But through that difficulty and even after, we know the wear and tear it is on you as a pastor. Pastors are our number one customer, we tell our folks at NAM. If you go to NAM at any point and ask anybody, our maintenance staff, anybody, who's the number one customer? The pastor. And I just want to say thank you for all that you do. And I wanted to remind you of a verse that you're very aware of, I'm sure, in Acts 18. When Paul had gone on the missionary journeys and had tremendous success, but was ran out of many towns. It was very difficult. The Lord came to him in a vision in Acts 18, verse 9 and 10. And it said this: do not be afraid. Speak out and don't be silent, for I am with you. And no one will attack you to harm you, for many people in this city belong to me. I just want to encourage you today. I've pastored for many, many years. I've been at NAM for 12, but before that pastored, I miss pastoring every day, the majority of it. I know it's a grind, and I know it can be tiring and difficult. But I'm reminded all the time of Acts 18 and what the Lord told Paul. Paul, do not be afraid. Stop being afraid. I got this. Man, life can be ugly, can throw you curveballs. But he told Paul, don't be afraid. And then he said, you keep on speaking and don't be silent. What he's basically saying is you keep doing what you're doing. You don't quit. So don't be afraid. No one can harm you. And you do not quit. That would sound like a pep rally if it just stopped there. You know, don't be afraid. Don't quit. Halftime speech, and then it kind of evaporates. If he didn't follow up with the very next line when he said, for I am with you. I'm so thankful he's promised never to leave us or forsake us. And we all do what we do to please him and to glorify him. And he's promised, don't be afraid. Don't quit. I am with you. And then I love the last part of that verse where he says, there are many people in this city that you know not of. That's to remind us and to remind Paul, look, Paul, I'm going to use you to do some incredible things, some amazing things, things greater than you could ever imagine on your own. I'm going to use you to do that. You have no idea, Paul. There are many people in this city I'm going to use you to reach, but you have no idea. So you do not quit. And you keep on without fear one day after the other. I'll tell a story, and just real quick, because I'm a Kentucky fan. It's a little embarrassing to admit that during football season. I know you people football is as Iowa. I think of football. You guys love football around here, and rightly so. But in Kentucky, I wasn't raised that way. We don't care that much about it. Football is an appetizer for us. It's like chips and dip, all right? And so it's just an appetizer waiting for the main course, basketball. When I grew up in Kentucky, when there was a tornado in Kentucky, they told us all to run to the football field because there's very few touchdowns there, all right? It's the safest place to be. So, dad joke, but always gets a laugh. But when I got married back in 1985, my wonderful wife, December 28, 1985, she has one sister, didn't grow up in a competitive home. Her dad was a hunter and a fisherman, but they didn't really watch things that kept score. My family, we did. We were very competitive. We got married December 28, 1985. We had our first, we had our first major marital disagreement in March of 1986. It's still celebrated today in something called March Madness, all right? I'm being totally serious. We've been married for about 3 or 4 months, and I was watching a March Madness game. Kentucky was playing, and she said, "Hey, I'd like to talk about something." And I said, "Sure. Can it wait till after the game?" And she responded, "Is the game more important than me?" And I paused too long. You don't think about those answers, all right? You just tell them what they want to hear. I learned that, I know that now. And so I kind of got in the doghouse, and she says, that brings up another thing. And I was like, oh, me, I did not mean to open that door. And she said, you're too competitive. I said, what do you mean too competitive? She goes, when you watch the games, you scream at the TV. You yell at the refs. I said, I'm not yelling at them. I'm encouraging them to do better, all right? And so finally, I realized she was serious, and so I had to make a life change. I really did. And so I started taping the games. And they say, you tape them and you don't find out the score? No. I do totally different than that. I tape the games. I find out what the score is. And if we win, I watch it. If we lose, I delete it. Now, it changes everything about the way you live if you live that way. Now, let me explain. We played Michigan a couple years ago in the tournament. Now, I know we win by 10 points. We win by a last-second shot. I know we won because I found out. We won by 1 point, last-second shot. But now I'm watching the game. Halftime, we're down 10 points. The announcers are negative, negative, negative. All I hear is negative. They'll never come back from such a 10-point lead and all that. Did it bother me at all about the negativity? Not at all. I was up there making a peanut butter jelly sandwich and waiting for the second half because I know we're going to win in the end. You guys can yap all you want, but we win in the end. 10 minutes to go. We are down by 8. Ooh, I'm not nervous. No. 1 minute to go. We're down by 2, and they have the ball. Am I concerned? Not on your life. I know what happens. At 40 seconds to go, we steal the ball. We come down. We pass it around. We're going to get a shot off. I bet we do. 3 seconds to go, a guy named Andrew Harrison pops a three-pointer, and we win by 1 point. Every time I watch it. What I love about this passage is the Lord's saying, and He's saying to you, look, you're worrying about these stuff. It's just halftime. It looks like you're going to lose, but it's halftime. Life throws you curveballs. You have plans for your kids, and sometimes they don't follow the plan. You have a 5-year plan for your life or for your church, and they don't follow the plan. But you need to understand we're on my plan, not yours, He would tell us. Do not fear. Do not quit. For I have many people in this state that I'm going to use you to reach that you know not of. Thank you, Iowa Baptist, for how you serve and how you invest in what God's doing here and around the world. I'm incredibly grateful. I know you want to watch this video. Thank you.